Welcome to the Naked Marketers, everybody. My name is Pete Wright, and I'm sitting on the virtual roundtable with Dane Christensen. Dane, how are you?
I'm great, Peter.
Good to hear your voice, my friend. As always. And I think it's actually fair to say, lovely and talented Megan Strand.
Thank you, Peter.
I know, that's so nice of me, right?
It is so nice of you. I don't think you've ever called me that.
No, I know, but there's the pressure of the internet audience, and it brings up feelings. What can I say?
It brings truth to the surface.
Well, this is welcome to the new show, everybody. Thank you for downloading the Naked Marketers. Where did it come from? I think it came from me getting pissed off at marketing and tools and all sorts of things. I started thinking about this concept of why everybody is running around and like the sky is falling every time a new Web 2.0 tool comes out, and make sure that you have how many followers on Twitter and how many friends on Facebook, and you got to have the Facebook friend page, and it got very frustrating. I mean, don't you guys find you're frustrated? Tell me you're frustrated.
Frustrated, Peter.
Frustrated. We're angry.
It's hard, Peter.
We're angry naked marketers.
Angry. But well, I do like your association of naked marketers and marketing tools.
and there we go.
Sorry. I had to point it out. I'm sure everyone else caught it.
Well, the concept, not to put too fine a point on it, really was born of this frustration, and we decided to put together this show and we'll let Megan and Dane will introduce themselves in a second. But the whole concept is, how can we really shine a light on the tools that work and the tools that don't, and where should you be putting your energy if you are if you're a marketer who's new to this space, and where really should you be letting the others try before you jump in, and watching the flags that unfurl and those that get folded back up and taken home, and so that's kind of where the show came from. So it's a bit of a concept show. We're going to try and bring interviews each episode that with people who are really experts in the industry and who are doing this every single day to really illuminate strategies and tools that can help deliver business results and business performance. That's what we're talking about, and hopefully we can do it in a way that grows following in a legitimate and organic and powerful manner, and do so with a soul. So did I catch everything, guys? Does that feel like where we're going?
That's exactly it. Yeah. I mean, that's the theme. That's sort of the core theme, I guess, for what we'd like every show to be wrapped around, even though, our topics will change, quite a bit, I think, from show to show. But that's the core idea. And I think it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And I think we're also here as a resource. So, and we're hoping that in every show we can not only bring you good marketing strategy, good marketing tools, but also, something you can use in your daily profession, whether you're a consultant or whether you're a marketing professional within an organization.
Excellent. And so
and it's so exciting to be able to listen to Peter for a while and his use of allegory and metaphor.
I'm
the
telling
flags
you,
that get unfurled and the ones that get taken home. The first
know.
time I've ever heard that, and every conversation with Peter, there's something like that. And I just think he says that like everybody is supposed to, be familiar with that reference. Did he make it up? I'm not sure. It's great.
It's a nice visual, though, isn't it?
I don't actually know if you're making fun of me or not.
No, I'm using
that to my benefit.
To get excited. I think it's great.
I've been trying to come up with a tagline for the show.
There's going to be some surprising metaphor in the next,
Just wait for it. Wait for it.
I've been trying. Wait for it. Legendary. I've been trying to come up with a tagline for the show. And I don't think I've got it, but it has something to do with ripping the clothes off traditional marketers, and
right.
And I'm not sure that that's appropriate yet, but we may grow into it. I don't know. There we are. Megan, do you want to talk about a little bit more about what we're going to try and cover each week? Give us an idea of the show format.
Absolutely. Well, I think you did a great job letting folks know that we're going to be talking with experts. We're hoping to bring expert interviews and or case studies, the things that we find particularly interesting or important. We're also going to bring you what we find are the current news and events in marketing, and hopefully some reviews on useful tools and a lot of sarcasm and laughter, hopefully, as well.
I hope so. And speaking of experts, we may not be on most of the things we talk about. We are likely not, and yet
we're just
have
facilitators
a lot
of genius.
Oh, I like that.
We are such facilitators of genius. Let me just try that out.
Down.
Let me just try that. The Naked Marketers, facilitators of genius.
I love it.
I'm writing it down.
That may have some legs to it. So, we are coming to you over Skype. We're not hanging out together. So let's go around the virtual table and introduce ourselves, shall we, Dane?
Yes, Dane Christensen. I'm actually in Salt Lake City right now. I own a little internet marketing company, which I've had for a little over a year now, which is a brave new frontier in marketing, but. Really, I mean, and this is one of the things that we've often discussed as a group and will be, again, part of this running narrative, is the idea that even though, there's a lot of new frontier in marketing, a lot of new tools, I guess, the core concepts have not changed and won't change. So, in various different ways, I hope we are able to sort of strip that down, so to speak, and get to the heart of that.
Beautiful. And your company, did you say what your company's called, Dane?
Wow, thanks.
Why won't
You're
you
on top. Thank you so much.
You got a plug.
I missed my coffee today. Strike 10 Media, strike10media.com.
And that's number 10, strike10media.com.
You spell out 10, I bought that one too. You'll get redirected, but yeah, the number 10, strike number 10.
You are an ace product manager to catch
Thank
that.
you.
Ace product manager. And you follow you on Twitter. How?
Alta Dane on Twitter.
Alta Dane. Okay. Thank you, Dane. Awesome. Megan.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, I'm Megan Strand. I am outside of the Portland, Oregon area with Mr. Peter. Not with Mr. Peter, but in the same general geographic vicinity. My company is Encouraged Communications. And I guess I would say my specialty is marketing communications, authentic communications. I really feel like it's important for people, companies, organizations to communicate from their core purpose. And it doesn't matter how many tools and strategies there are out there, but if you don't know your core purpose and communicate from that place, it's challenging to make a marketing strategy work. So along those lines, my particular area of interest has to do with mutually beneficial marketing, strategic partnerships. I think that's super important as we're making a change in this economy and this environment, and consumers are wanting different things from companies. And in the concept of skating where the puck will be, Peter, to use your analogy.
Cheers to you. I'm raising a glass to you right now.
Thank you. So that's my particular passion. And I'm at Twitter at Megan Strand, and soon to be at encouragedcommunications.com.
I thought it was already registered at encourage.com.
Encouraged.com is there. That's my blog.
Oh, okay. So you're going all the way.
But Encouraged Communications is going to be a new iteration of that.
I hope you use a lot of Flash.
No, there's not going to be a lot of Flash. And if there is, it's your fault.
Do you hear that, Adobe? Okay. My name is Pete Wright. I am a writer, blogger, photographer, and internet media producer. I am a contract host for my clients. I produce corporate podcasts for clients, such as Ask Cadence, the project management podcast. Excellent. We just hit our 100th episode this week. So go check out Ask Cadence. And the Acoustic Conversations show, if you check out acousticconversations.com. And if you're into singer-songwriter acoustic music, we give away a ton of music for free. But those are very much passions. I'm very excited about this show because it deals with sort of the meta issues of everything that I deal with day to day. As we're creating content, what are the tools that really work, and how do we build following in this new world? So I'm very excited to bring that discussion to this show. And you can follow me at fifthandmain.com, all written out, or follow me on Twitter at Pete Wright. And that's
right.
me.
WRIGHT.
That's correct. That's the Welsh spelling. Although if you're in Wales, it has a lot of silent L's in it. So let's talk first about current events. It wasn't this week; it was last week, but it still seems to have the orbit of all current events that have come since, which is the iPad. Now, this is not a technical show. This is not a geek show. Typically the iPad has been, a point of focus on many of the Mac and tech podcasts, but we're talking about it for a different reason. What do you guys think of the iPad?
I like what I heard. Can't remember what show it was on, some NPR crazy show, that it looked like an iPhone for the elderly.
It's like my first
funny.
iPhone.
It's like geriatric iPhone because everything's huge.
Okay, well,
That's joke,
I agree.
people. It's funny. It's funny.
The buttons are large. Dane, what's your first impression?
I'm all kinds of excited about it. I think, there was, in terms of the build-up, I suppose the general sense I get is that people were maybe a little bit let down because, there wasn't like a video camera and there wasn't, some magic new way of interacting with your computer per se. But I thought, I think the lesson learned from really the iPhone is that, you make the technology great, and I think they did, but now we're redefining the uses, and I don't think we've really, it was unveiled with, I was pretty excited about the iWork apps for $9.99. I think that's pretty cool. And that, put that together with email on this sort of bigger screen and on a 3GS, and all of a sudden, I think you have most of what you need to be mobile. Go to the coffee shop, and I'm pretty excited about that kind of like a work sort of device, but I'm also excited to see what apps, are developed for it, because I think it's just one of those things that once those sort of come, once developers figure out, how to use the same, I guess, app coding, and work with this bigger screen, and what can we do, and things like simple, work utilities like billing and invoicing, and I'm pretty excited to see what comes up.
Well, I think that's really true, and I think there's a whole lot of sort of hue and cry after the announcement, and after folks have been able to check out the hour-and-a-half launch video of Steve Jobs, just demoing this thing. That this is lame. We don't have wireless and 3G wireless in every device. It's the iPhone operating system is too limited to be able to really do what you want to do. There's no file system. It's you're locked into the stores, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think that's really the point. I like to think I had this thought in conjunction with this writer, but probably he was a split second before me. Whatever. Fraser Spears is a brilliant technologist and writer, and he wrote this wonderful piece called Future Shock on his blog at spears.org, SPEIRS.org, that talks about the industry's reaction to the iPad being this terror that they're going to have to change the way they think about computing. And the background is this, for the last 20 years, technologists have been designing computers, and users have had to adapt in order to figure out how to use things. They've had to adapt to force quit applications, adapt to jumping into to Alt F4 or whatever it is on Windows to quit processes that have locked up. They have to adapt to where windows are floating and where they're not, and where they can click and where they should double click, and what a right click is. And they've always had to adapt to the technologists. And what the iPad has done is eliminated that layer. The iPad has a file system. It has processes that can get locked up. It is a computer in every sense of the word, but they have pulled down this curtain, which I believe opens up a whole lot of opportunity to create elegance and usability that will allow you to create new and wonderful things, but under a new definition. And I not to completely ramble on, but I will. I think it really is laser focused in the iBook or the iBook store and iBooks app. Everybody is screaming and crying about what is going to happen to books. Are you going to be able to read on this thing? And all the publishers are up in arms about how Apple's going to be controlling the prices. I don't think pricing is at the heart of the issue at all. I think at the heart of the issue is, what is a book anymore? Because paper, I think, is passé. Would you agree?
Oh, I do and I don't.
Passé.
Yeah, I mean, I still have magazines I get in the mail for a reason, but I do a lot of article reading online, for instance. So it just sort of depends. I do think that there are books you want to connect to physically, I suppose. Although devices like this and the Kindle, I've never used a Kindle, but I understand it. There is a certain intimacy and a sense of sort of ownership. I love having books on the walls, in my house.
I'm replacing them all with iPads.
Yeah, just
why
put
does that not surprise
one for each book. But see, this is the point. And I'm coming at this more from a standpoint of content distribution rather than the intimacy that you get by touching your books, which is that I now could create a textbook that has within it integrated motion graphics, integrated video. If I want to write about, the I Have a Dream speech in a textbook, I can actually write about that speech and I can embed the video in it. I can make a book an interactive experience, much like, frankly, the early promise of, Microsoft Encarta. I think that was the early promise of Encarta when it came out, was to give
That's
kids
true.
the ability to have this interactive experience. But it was limited by the technology and the economy. The economy wasn't there because the publishers wouldn't get behind it. It had to be solely funded by Microsoft. The technology wasn't there because you couldn't expand it. It was delivered on 45 CDs, eventually a couple of DVDs, and then it was dead. I mean, the internet didn't exist to a point where you could keep it constantly updated. Now, I can have an always up-to-date textbook that's easy to read, that's highly visual. The Kindle fails in every way except for readability of straight text on that point. And I can make something that is for the next generation. It's not for me. I'm making content for this generation that's coming that doesn't really care about paper.
Well, I think you've just hit the nail on the head. I think it has more to do with revolutionizing the way that people get their information than it does with making paper a thing of the past. I think you're always going to have a need for business publications, books. There's a certain trust factor that it goes along with that, and I don't think that people are going to have that same inherent level of trust with something like the iPad and the content that's delivered through it right away. Now, that being said, I agree. You're going to have, you're designing for the next generation, and this is how they're going to consume their media. And, it also, it's going to be interesting to see what happens as far as advertising goes, because I remember, I don't know if they've done this or not, but there was a company that was talking about using TV to a point where you can click on somebody's handbag and say, where do you buy that? And they'll tell you. So I don't know if that's going to be an option with content that's delivered as well, and that may revolutionize advertising as well.
Well, I think what's so interesting about where you're going with that, Pete, is that and this is pretty much what you said, but this isn't a brand new idea. These aren't brand new concepts. It's the kind of concept that's been talked about for quite a while, but it can be, it can be talked about 10 years ahead of, a certain level of evolution. And sometimes it's a very small thing, whether it's a technological change or, the content developers, publishers, music labels. I mean, they really are. You have to just drag them kicking and screaming into the 21st century because they're really trying to protect old models that are more predictable to them. But those who embrace, as you're suggesting, Peter, how this could be used will come screaming forward, I think, to the front of the pack. And I think that's where, I hope anyway, something like the iPad will all of a sudden, it'll be maybe a certain use or a couple of uses, or a publisher who really, you know, makes amazing use of the format, that all of a sudden, its value goes way beyond its size or, the technology. Maybe.
Yeah, I think it does. I think the planets are sort of aligning, right? I mean,
Totally.
to your point, Megan, a few months ago, Apple actually, announced the purchase of Quattro Wireless, which is a wireless advertising network. And why do you think they did that? I mean, nothing has been announced in terms of how they're going to be able to integrate the Quattro wireless ad network into Apple's services and products. But do you think they're just dabbling in advertising? Do you think Apple it doesn't really have a plan? They just want to have something to
Apple doesn't dabble in
taunt,
anything,
right? Except the Apple TV, but. Notwithstanding, this idea that they're creating an integrated system, an ecosystem for platform engagement around content is really powerful. And you sort of step back a few years and look at what YouTube did to personal video publishing, to enabling anyone to be able to get their video message out there. What the GarageBand and what's the it's gonna kill me. It's the open source audio editing application. Anyway, it's Audis something.
or blogging for that matter.
Well, blogging for personal print publishing, audio publishing for creating your own music out of your garage, for video on YouTube. I mean, all of these publishing tools are pushing down the ability to create content, the ability to turn yourself into a publisher to the end user, and that turns the entire market on its head. And I think to bring this back up to small businesses, this is the age of embracing your own message, where you simply don't have to farm out your message to some big brand agency, where you can really enable the level of communication that you need to on these platforms like the iPad, like you've never been able to do that before.
Which is
amazing.
Again,
not a brand new concept on some levels. I mean, when Word and desktop publishing tools came out,
everybody became a desktop publisher, right?
Yeah,
everybody was a designer.
And that's the way it was spoken about. But you compare what was between, I guess let's call it a desktop publisher as a person and their potential audience. What exists today with technologies like this versus what existed then when you really only had the software. There are so many small things that I think put the pieces together that take us way past where that sort of initiated.
Yeah.
I mean, just the whole concept of finding your audience and having a smaller audience. I bought a White Denim album, the band White Denim, last week, and I was trying to find on iTunes, how are these songs ranked, and I had to go to Wikipedia to find out that, like, their first 3 albums, I think, I mean, it was more than one, and they had a pretty big following at 3 albums. They had released them all themselves, no record label.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, you just are seeing more of that, even though it's been talked about for quite some time. I mean, even, the launch of Napster, it was this, oh, wow, okay, now the record industries are dead completely, and artists will just go straight to the consumer. Well, yeah, I mean, that's
the smart ones.
Possible, but yeah, but it has to get teeth. There have to be platforms to connect. There has to be some way to really make that happen logically for a broad audience and a broad array of artists, publishers, content developers, etc.
It's a hard one because you talk to musicians and I mean, this is a question we ask every week on Acoustic Conversations to these singer-songwriters who are trying to get their businesses off the ground. Has this really played out for you? And by and large, in terms of what success means to artists, that the definition of success has changed as a result of these technologies. Right now, the goal is not to get a record label. The goal is to drive a sustaining business. Right, to be able to write and produce music and be able to make enough money to sustain a business for a long-term music career, which I think is a really dynamic change and an important one, because it's what it enables everyone to do at all levels of their business career is to think about their business the way corporations have for millennia, right? It is this idea that, we're looking for sustained results with everything we do. With every single dollar we put toward our communications effort, we want to be able to see another notch in the sustaining results category. Growing audience, slow and steady. We don't need the big bang. We don't need the huge record label. We don't need the big, we don't need to sort of sell our soul to get the big, album release. We can do quality
really deep.
ourselves.
It's really deep for your musicians to tell you, Peter.
It is deep. Actually, it's quite deep.
And David Byrne, by the way, I don't know if you read this, Peter. I think it was a couple of years ago. He did an article in Wired magazine about the different approaches available. I think he had them defined as 5 separate approaches available, to an artist today, and it ranged from what his original Talking Heads arrangements were, which was essentially that over time the record label would own the songs,
right?
And he has no access to those songs anymore. He has no ownership of the songs that they wrote as the original Talking Heads. And what he outlined was that he has dabbled in every one of these 5, and it goes from more or less complete corporate ownership of your creative content, but they sustain you and whatever, they put a lot of marketing behind you and all that kind of thing. All the way to obviously self-publishing and being in total control without any contracts and a few things in between. It's a very interesting article. And I think, each of those steps is available today, but as the technologies evolve, more and more artists have the opportunity to move to that other side and be in control.
There was a fantastic bit. Have you seen Family Guy, something, Dark Side?
No.
I don't watch Family Guy often, but Seth MacFarlane does his show Family Guy, and he and apparently everyone on the Family Guy staff are hooligans for Star Wars. And in the open of the show, they have the rolling screen credits, and he actually says something I think really germane to this discussion, which is. And I'm gonna find the exact quote because it's that brilliant. He's talking about when George Lucas was working with 20th Century Fox to create the first Star Wars. The quote on the scrolling credits is, "What you may not know is that 20th Century Fox had so little faith in the Star Wars franchise they let George Lucas keep all the merchandising rights." Who does that, right? Are you idiots? Right? But that's the point, right? I mean, this is an era when, content creators can create and own what they do and stand to build a steady, sustainable audience. They don't have to sell their soul to get it.
I want to throw one little thing out there that I've been holding on to because I thought this related to what Peter was originally saying about, I guess, the going away of paper products, right? And it's something when I think about little tweaks or minor changes that all of a sudden become revolutionary, I think about Yellow Pages and our past historical dependence on the Yellow Pages to search businesses, and how when you search for a service, say Google Maps, and now you get something you don't get in the Yellow Pages, which is ratings and reviews. And you're looking for a plumber, and somebody says, "This guy sucks. By the way, he never showed up the first day. We were overcharged." You're never going to get that from the Yellow Pages. And all of a sudden, and I think a lot of businesses have yet to really figure out that they need to be on Google Maps and need to encourage their customers to get behind them there or give some sort of rating. And so that's going to take a while to really, I think, become indispensable. But for the few searches that you do where you say, wow, that's some great feedback, now I can see, who I'd like to do business with or who I'd like to hire. where I'd like to go, then all of a sudden Yellow Pages as a printed publication are completely obsolete.
Yeah, it's a great example. I don't get them at my house anymore. Do you guys still get them?
I get them and I recycle them right away.
I get one that's not whatever. It's not the Quest is the big phone company here. I'm getting the crappy ones that are whatever.
Let's talk about an industry there that is a little bit not thinking ahead and not embracing new technology. Just the fact that they still distribute Yellow Pages just kills me.
Well, it is, especially when, most of them have an alternative online delivery system. I
Right.
mean, you can search online these same things, but why do they bring paper to the houses anymore?
It should be by request only because, as Dane pointed out, the moment they're printed, they're obsolete.
Well, that would kill it if it was by request only, because they wouldn't be able to print enough. If suddenly everybody got a chance to opt out, then the 10 people left would not make it worth printing a 1,000-page directory.
Just print out a huge document on Word.
They're going to just email you the entire directory in Word format.
Come on, Peter. I like my idea. Opt-in phone books.
I love it. I love it. Okay, well then I think, Dan, you bring up a good subject. I want to move on to this, to the social media key points blog post. Megan, you found that. What was that called?
It had a great title. Hold on, I got it right here. The Social Media Dead Zone, Why Only Tools Focus on Tools.
Well,
it's sweet.
There it is. Greg
Verdino.
Boy, this really struck a chord with me. The first thing, when you sent this over, it shows a great image of all of the brand icons that are floating around the Web 2.0 space, from, Wikipedia to Shozu to, TechMeme to, you name it, Vimeo, they're all there. And most of them, the vast majority, probably 80% of the image is covered by pink X's covering the logos of all the tools, the Web 2.0 tools that have gone under. And yet these were the companies that, many a venture capitalist hung their hat as the next big it thing. So it got me thinking about what the next big it thing might be before we jump back on the detail of this one, which is this idea of geo-social networks that you just brought up, Dane. Have you tried Foursquare?
No, I've not tried Foursquare.
You haven't tried Foursquare, you idiot. You must be living in the dark ages, you Luddite.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Well, now, Megan, you're on Foursquare.
Only because you set me up
you
on
have
Foursquare.
one friend on Foursquare. I'm trying them, a couple of them. And because, the word is, this is the next thing. This is what's going to happen in 2010. Everybody's going to go social. So here's the concept. You join Foursquare. Or the other, there are some others in the space. GoWalla, GoWalla, Foursquare. Yelp just launched the same feature, but we'll save Yelp for just a minute. That's got a different bit of a twist. And I hear Facebook is actually integrating this kind of geo-social networking feature. So you back to Foursquare. You log into Foursquare, you sign up, and everywhere you go, when you walk into a restaurant or a bar or a bank or wherever, you launch Foursquare, it finds out where you are by using your phone's GPS, and it asks you if you want to check in there. And if you say, yes, check in, it does a couple of things. First of all, it notifies all of your friends on that network that you have just checked in at this bar. So when they're going to a bar, they can look at the bar and see, oh, look, I can see where my friends are. They're at this bar. I'm going to go here. The second thing it does is it gives you points. So it's created a game out of your driving around. And third, it posts it to all your other networks like Twitter and Facebook. Now, I don't yet see the point. I've been trying it for a couple of weeks. I don't get it. I'm not bullish on this stuff as it is, on these single function, let's play a game by telling people where we are applications. And I think, after 2 weeks, they may just have about run their course. But I am interested in this idea of Facebook and Yelp doing the same thing. Megan, what is your impression of Foursquare so far? Pointless?
I feel the same way that you do, Peter. I don't 100% get how this is going to help anybody. I understand that if you're a retail storefront, you could, you can turn it into promotions by saying, okay, because you didn't explain the whole mayor concept too. If you check in a certain amount of places more than anybody else, you become the mayor of that location. So, I've seen promotions where you can, if you're the mayor of so-and-so, you get a free latte or whatever, which although, you can sit at home and say you're at this coffee shop when you're actually not. So that's the downfall of Foursquare at this point. You don't actually have to be there to check in.
Well, I think you do. I
think
you have to be within a certain radius.
Do you? Okay.
Which
so if I happen to live across the street from the coffee shop, I can just check in all day long.
Well, and that's you can just drive down a street and check in at a number of places.
Right, exactly. So, I get it as far as like a little promotional, gimmicky sort of thing. But I don't get how this is going to be anything more than a shiny tool that a weird sect of society picks up on and decides this is their thing. Like, I think geocaching is cool, but has it revolutionized anything as far as marketing is concerned? I don't know, and I sort of see it as kind of a subsect. I see it as a game, but I agree with you. I'm open to seeing how people may make use of it. And I agree that explain Yelp and how they're using it, because I think that makes more sense to me as far as.
Well, Yelp is an interesting one. Yelp actually, I think Yelp is a terrifically useful service, and I haven't, I don't usually get into the, at least before Yelp, had not really gotten into the reviews concept, driving around, go to a restaurant and actually post my thoughts on a restaurant somewhere. But Yelp is interesting. It compels you to share your story or to share, what things you think, you should order, because it's such a handy tool for next time. When I go to a restaurant and I like it, I can take a picture of a meal that I like or take a picture of the bar because it's cool, post it to Yelp, and the rest of the world gets to see it. Well, about 3-4 weeks ago, Yelp actually launched this geosocial network check-in functionality to their network. Suddenly, because Yelp is not is no longer a single function kind of gaming device, it makes it a little bit more compelling if you're one of those, one of the sort of, one of the folks who travel in herds in a, urban environment, and you're looking, to travel to find out where all the best bars are. Yelp might be a great app because there are already people there. That's where the people are right now. There is a market that exists in Yelp. Facebook is another one. Facebook is kind of the big dog, and they have typically not been afraid to, ape technology from other competing companies that they find useful. The rumor is Facebook is going to be launching the similar sort of geosocial networking where you can check into restaurants and bars and banks and doctors' offices and tell the world where you are, or tell your, network of friends where you are. And Facebook boasts the largest average, network of friends of any of these networks. That's where everybody is.
Well, and that's, a few weeks ago, I read something really positive about Foursquare, and I thought, okay, well, I better check this out. And as soon as I saw that it was a game and there were like little symbols and, to me, I just thought, I don't know. It's not my thing. It looks too gimmicky. I'm really not going to spend too much time, getting all sort of jacked up about this one. But to the other point there, and to the point you're making, Peter, that these products, I guess, or platforms are really only as useful as the size of their audience and the input that they're getting. So whether or not the technology is amazing over here versus fairly simple over there, that's not going to matter if everybody's over there where the technology is not quite as amazing. And you hate to have too many of these things, that you've got to log in all over the place, or it's the one that you depend on. It would be nice, if there were sort of one or two that had it all, and then you could sort of break off by, where something might be stronger in restaurants, another thing might be stronger in music venues or something like that. But by the same token, by the way, and I'll just throw this out, I believe that the fact that these are evolving provides a great opportunity for small businesses, because you might be the only restaurant in your neighborhood that goes to Foursquare and is, registered and encouraging people to rate you. On Yelp, you might be the only, dry cleaner in your area. There's a big opportunity. I mean, it's the plus and minus, I guess, of where some of these are still developing their audience, that there's an opportunity for businesses to take advantage of being having a big presence, or if they start now and get a few reviews on there, over time may have the most reviews, even though they don't have the biggest marketing budget. So it's a big opportunity, I think, for companies, for small businesses.
I think the corollary to that is, though, that you may be the only dry cleaner on there, but don't worry, because there's only one Foursquare user in your neighborhood who's going to see you there.
Well, and I think that's the point of this blog post by Greg Verdino, I don't know how to say his last name, Verdino. One of his points is we have an obligation to ourselves, if to nobody else, to exercise a bit of restraint when it comes to chasing shiny objects. So, I think the whole point of this blog post is how do these new tools matter for your business? Because odds are, the latest shiny thing is going to be gone 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 6 months from now. So I think, to both of your points, yes, it could be a really cool thing, but should you be diving in headfirst to something that's a game that you don't see tangible business use, for your personal industry or business? And I don't know what the answer is, but I think the point is that you don't just jump into everything without thinking it through from a strategic level. Like, you don't get on Twitter just to have 1 million followers 2 weeks from now. How are you using that to communicate your message, and how are you using that as an additional platform to communicate with your audience and your partners and your stakeholders? It's not a tool just for the sake of it being a tool.
Beautifully said. And you know why?
That's the point of the whole blog. I just really liked it. I thought
it really was. It was a great point, and this whole chasing shiny objects bit, I think, is important. And it got me thinking, as we look at our sort of last item on our rundown here, is this, we were going to go through and talk about tools and reviews of the products, communications products that we use every day, and things that we could recommend. And I think we should also include in that category things people shouldn't use.
Good one.
The don't waste your time products. And I think I'm going to start by saying Foursquare. I think if you're a small business marketer, I think you're far better to put your money where the networks already exist, and those are Facebook, Yelp, especially if you're a restaurant or a bar, where the people are, skate where the puck will be, and be there. Don't waste your time with the games, the single function, social games at this point. I mean, of course all those things can change, but right now Foursquare, don't bother.
And I think one of the strong points to make is that for any business, the universal truth is your resources are not infinite; they're finite. And whether it's money or time, you have to consider that, and that drives or should force people to think about exactly what you're saying, Megan, which is, what's the purpose? How are we going to use it? Is it just to have a presence, or to say that we are, or to have the icon on our website so that it looks like we're, up to speed and kind of with it? Or do we have an actual purpose for using it? Because at the end of the day, who's going to drive it? What kind of content are we going to use? How is this going to connect to our customers? And of course, how is this going to build profit and revenue for the company?
Yeah,
I think that's a super good point, especially when you're talking about small businesses. And I mean, who isn't busy up to their eyeballs, day in and day out? So I think you have to be really selective. So it's a super good point.
All right. So being selective, Dane, what do you what's your tool that you recommend people use or don't use? Are you officially on the spot?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I think that it makes a lot of sense to have a Facebook fan page, and I think it makes sense to have a Twitter account. I think that those two things are not difficult to wrap your head around in terms of how would we use these, how would we connect this to our audience. It's very, very possible for most businesses that they ought to pick one or the other and not have both if they really want to drive a strategy. I do think that these sort of localized map sites, starting with Google Maps, but also Yahoo, MSN Bing, or MS Bing, whatever, I would recommend every small business take the time to make sure they've got, a correct profile with as much detail as possible on at least those basic platforms. I think that every business should make sure that that's happened.
But I think they need to have a reason for doing it. Like, I think they need to have a strategy going into it. If for no other reason, for example, I personally think Twitter is I love Twitter, and I could see a million uses for almost every business, but especially if you're a retail location, I think Twitter for customer service is huge. I mean, I can't tell you how impressed I've been just the few times that I've tweeted about, went to this restaurant, thought it was really cool. And I got a tweet back from the company saying, oh, thanks so much. We enjoyed having you, or something really silly like that. But especially for customer service. But my point is, you have to have a plan for being on Facebook or Twitter. It's not just, we're going to be on Facebook and Twitter for the sake of being on Facebook and Twitter, in my opinion.
Absolutely. No, I think that's the point.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think so. What is your pick this week, Megan?
This week I got to say Facebook, and here's why. I was astounded this week when one of my friends posted, "Hey, does anybody know a good dentist in Vancouver, Washington?" And of course, I sent her a comment with my dentist. She probably got 10 recommendations for dentists. And she told me she got direct email, and people stopping her talking about dentists. And I thought, oh my gosh. So of course I email my dentist, and she ends up picking my dentist. And my dentist doesn't have a Facebook page. I'm like, dude, come on. So just seeing, and I think it's industry specific, but just seeing people ask questions, people really like being asked their opinion. And, if you're not on Facebook and you don't have something to point people to, like, yes, that word of mouth is super important. And imagine how powerful if my dentist had a Facebook page, and I could say, yeah, you should go try this guy and check out his Facebook page.
Excuse me. I'm interested in your take on this argument, right? Because I've been hearing a lot of folks who are getting sort of Facebook overstimmed, people who feel like, oh my God, I cannot take any more Farmville requests.
It's because they don't know how to turn them off.
Well, that's the point, right? So that's the question. You get a lot of folks who are overstimulated and they get frustrated, and they say, I'm going to shut down my Facebook account. I can't take it anymore. What is your response to people like that?
I say, Sharon, stop saying that.
So you know someone like this.
Well, I understand the Facebook overload, by the way. I mean, it really is. I think, you build up your friends and you get sort of a lot of people. I think it's a human nature thing to say, oh, this is great. Wow. Oh, look at the possibilities. I'm connecting with, old high school friends from 20 years ago.
And then you realize, oh my God, those are old high school friends.
Yeah,
from 20
right.
years ago.
There's a reason I don't talk to them anymore.
Yeah. And, to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to take, and this is what people have to do. I mean, people have to do this with their cell phones, and no one's really very successful at it, but to say, I'm going to go on a vacation where, I can't be contacted for business. So, I guess my advice, I don't know if it's good advice or not, but as an individual, taking sort of a mini break, not a bad idea.
Well, here's my take on that, Peter. My take is that people, yes, it can be overwhelming, but here's the strategy. Hide the posts from the people who you don't care about. Like, maybe you don't have to unfriend them, but I had this girl from high school who was talking about her sister designing My Little Pony outfits, and I thought, okay, I'm done. And so I hid her things. I'm serious. I don't want to see that stuff. And
oh no,
I think I guess my
critical.
Point is, my point is, if you're feeling overwhelmed, hide the updates from people, because there are people. I've got another friend from high school who talks only about beer.
I'd like to be introduced.
Not in a good way, though. Just
I like to bathe in beer, and then sometimes I shower
it's Friday,
in it.
Time for my beer. Here's a picture of my beer. Here I am at the bar. I mean, it's just silly. So if you're getting overwhelmed by that stuff, hide it. And then what you'll find is that your community is a community that you want to be a part of, not something that has overrun you. And I feel the same about Twitter, too. There's a lot of people out there that post really weird things that I don't like. This one guy I started following, he posted like 700 times in one day. And I thought, I can't follow him because my tweet deck can't keep up with he just bumps everyone out of my tweet deck.
Well, I think you put that really well, and for me, it always comes down to this: if you are one of those people who feels overwhelmed by Facebook, it is likely because you do not know how to use Facebook. Because what you're saying, hiding posts and hiding things from certain applications, that's one of those sort of obscure features for a lot of people. They don't get what that means. As obvious as it may be to those who spend a lot of time on Facebook, it's not terribly well displayed in such a way that it's just absolutely intuitive. I know what's going to happen here. I think the other thing is learning how to use lists appropriately. I mean, those are concepts and around privacy and the types of social groups you keep on Facebook that I think are really, it's important to you being able to get a lot of utility out of the tool. But that really is it, right? I mean, Facebook is a platform. And what sort of breaks my heart on kind of a personal level, when I hear, friends and family say, oh, I can't take it anymore, I'm leaving Facebook, is that, okay, you're leaving Facebook, but remember, Facebook is where everybody is, whether it's your family or your friends or cousins or teachers, that's where people are. And if you quit Facebook, you are extricating yourself from a discussion that's going on, whether or not you're there.
Yeah, and I don't know, I assume everybody feels this way about it, but I think Facebook fulfills the promise that at one point everyone thought, yeah, we'll have our own website. We'll have a family website. I'll have this,
right,
blog or some way to communicate to everybody. And Facebook bridges that so that, even your completely technologically inept, grandpa can hop on Facebook and post pictures from his vacation. So you're right, Peter. I mean, I think you have to kind of say, and I think, you start out the podcast talking about, with the iPad, the way people have to adapt. We have to adapt to technologies in the way, right-clicking on a mouse. And there's all this adaptation, which I think, learning how to use Facebook is one of those. But I think conceptually, one of the things that has thrown people off is when Facebook goes from being, this private conversation with a core group of friends where you can be as crass as you want to be, to all of a sudden your mom and your sister and everyone else is on there. Now you have to adapt the conversation. And I think that throws some people off.
Right. Mostly it's the ability of your high school friends to tag you in a picture.
Oh, come on. I wish they couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Megan said, now I'm curious.
I
got to tell you.
You should see my, it's attractive. There's some very large hair pictures of me from high school on Facebook.
And you could untag those,
I know, but I should.
The internet
I generally
knows.
do.
That's I think that goes back to the to sort of take a step back, that what we're talking about really is endemic of the nature of the platform of Facebook and why it is so critically important that small businesses get on Facebook. The barriers to entry are just so low, and that's where people are right now. To be able to create a discussion around your brand in this community where your customers likely are, I think is pretty important.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
With that, I think we've prattled on almost long enough. Where can we find you guys? Should I want to search the internet and find you guys, where would I go?
The easiest place for me is Twitter at Megan Strand, all one word, and temporarily my blog Encouraged, which is incouraged.com.
Thank you very much. And
Thank
Dane?
you.
Yeah, and me again, the website is strike10media.com. I also do have a Facebook fan page, Strike10Media, and a Twitter account, Altadane. And I post in both places, not as often as I should, but I try to sort of bring interesting things I've read to both of those platforms, and my website kind of just describes me.
And I am at fifthandmain.com, Twitter at Pete Wright, and I post things that are fully awesome.
You do.
I just post. Yeah. What I love now these days is salt sculpture. And if you want to learn
what
about
is up with
salt
that in you?
That is so cool. Cool. Fully awesome. That is what's on my Twitter feed. I encourage you to follow it to join in with things that are fully awesome.
Awesome.
And thenakedmarketers.com. The site exists right now. It is a bald head, but we'll have the episode up there, and
we'll have more nakedness to come.
More robust nakedness to come. Thank you all who have downloaded the show and listened to this very first episode. We truly appreciate your time and your patience if you've made it this far. And we'll bring you stuff that is, I can almost guarantee it'll be better next time.
I guarantee it. Stand behind that.
Thanks, everybody. And with that, I believe I can say with confidence that we are out of here.
Bye-bye.
Stay well.